Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another scene set in Death of a Dark Crusade Season 2. On this particular evening, we set the scene within the great and grand Church of Set. The temple that lies deep within the slums of Odessa. Hidden from view of Kine and Cainite alike, the Primogen and now leader of the Sellout Warriors and keeper of the city's Fair Elysium, Solahdrin, have organized a short meet as they both have matters to discuss with another.
The Solahdrin enters the temple. He's got a large wooden crate in his arms. Is doing way. It's not chest. Is most assuredly crate. And he's carrying that with one arm because at this point he's got a total of strength 7. So I assume carrying it is it's not. It's got the brazier and it's got something else in it. Those things that we stole, we took from was it the Jewish quarter where we found the last, or it was the fucking whatchamacallit, the last brazier?
You found it within the Arab slums.
Okay, cool.
It was in the northeast-ish side. Like, it's not proper northeast. It's kind of like just northeast of the center. But it was outside any Setite domain.
Okay. He will still have it under his arm, inside a wooden box. But he will go to the Primogen or the priestess's quarters within the temple. I don't think she lives here. I know she has rooms here.
She has a place where she holds meetings and holds proclamations before the rest of the Setites. She's not actually there, but you do find her engaged in some sort of ritual before a rather large shrine to Tauret.
He will place his box down and wait very quietly.
After some brief chanting, a sacrifice or an offering of blood and ritual, she finishes and turns to you.
Solahdrin looks her up and down. Does she have anything in her hands?
No.
He will give the perfunctory kind of head bow of respect.
She does. She just seals the wound in her wrist as she then does a faint, somewhat playful curse here. She says, "Oh my, good keeper, what have you for me this evening?"
He bends down and pops open the lid of the chest. At which point he won't physically touch it. He definitely has touched it before because he took it in his mouth at one point when he was in his beast form, his typhonic avatar state. He basically picks it up using silk, kind of a silk damask kind of cloth, And he will place the silver brazier down in front of her. This was taken from the raid in the Arab slums. It's one of the braziers that the individuals were using, though apparently based on the surprise of Madeleine and Lady Irene. They don't believe it's one of the true braziers, or braziers. I can English today. Braziers. However, skilled individuals should be able to learn something from it should they be able to apply the correct arts. A useful tool in any future negotiations with those whom are actively seeking the infernalists spread throughout the city. Ah, and then there is this. He will kneel down again, and he will remove from the inside of the box in a folded piece of parchment that's been done up to keep it closed, and he will place it down on the floor. He will delicately open the parchment and unfold it so it shows. There is a piece of white silken cloth that has been stained with blood. Question, Chris, did the creature have the same color blood? Was it still red blood?
It was still red, yeah.
Yeah. And he will say, I also present you my Primogen with a mighty gift, the blood of the infernal creature that was summoned as these things' guardian.
Oh, that is a mighty gift indeed. She grows a rather violent-looking smile, somewhat unlike her. She actually kind of leans over to inspect the rather simple-looking bloody silken cloth rag would perhaps be a bit more accurate. But oh no, you're rich. It'll be silk.
Mm-hmm.
You've ruined it. Good job.
It's fine. It was taken via the skills of your servants when it came to combat this evil that lurked just outside our domain. Also, can I P and E her when she has that weird ass smile on her face?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Where did I go? There it is. I love doing my Discord wall of things. You say that all specs doesn't apply to this.
No, it doesn't. This is mainly because it would become impossible to effectively deceive anybody.
Wow,
if anyone of the mil specs.
That's 5 successes.
In which case, you know that Setite look. It's because it's a very Setite look of, oh, I'm going to get my mileage out of this one. That is the look she has.
He nods and says,
It's the look of someone who just figured out that they can effectively hold someone's life in their hands, or someone's something equally important.
He looks at her and he blinks before he'll say, I had a query on them. I have a number of queries that perhaps you may answer, Honored Primogen.
Of course, with gifts like these, you may ask anything you wish.
Then I shall begin with this is more of a thought than a query. Oh, but question, is Gouffron still here in inverted commas, or has he gone somewhere?
He has left the domain.
Okay. When Honored Gouffron spoke to me, he spoke of the last time they had seen a demon in Edessa and about its connection to the Toreador. Once again, I find the interesting connection. That last time a demon was physically seen. I was merely wondering if we know categorically what had happened to that particular entity.
I was not present when it occurred, although from what I've been told from multiple sources, it had been destroyed or forced into a state of slumber, effectively sent back to where it came from in some capacity or another. Its physical form was destroyed.
Oh.
Its
No.
spiritual form was implied to survive, although I doubt many outside of us would be aware of this.
He sits down on the crate. He kind of closes the crate and sits on it. He'll say, merely a query. Even if this rag was to be split in two, he'll denote it and he'll say, it would be very simple to trade it for a very large favor from such entities as the. You can see his nose crinkle as he says the word Tremere. Solahdrin really doesn't like the Tremere.
Yes, we may want to. We may want to make sure that the blood does not decay, lest it become less useful as leverage, but I can organize this with very little effort involved on our part.
Excellent. There was just one more small consideration before I will ask a benefice of you, noble Primogen. Were you intending to inform the rest of our clan that you have allowed items stained by the hand of Apep into Set's holy temple? In completely deadpan. There is no emotion in the voice whatsoever.
Oh, now she's sad. I would have her roll, but she'll just spend a willpower to ignore it.
Someone about to roll frenzy.
Yeah, as a sort of like, how to say? It's that sort of very, somewhat, when someone closes their eyes, but you can tell they're looking up and they frown slightly and just very lightly shake their head, more like it shivers.
So it's literally one of those fuck moments.
It's just like, oh, like, for crying out loud, I don't have time to deal with this look. It's like, oh, bother. It's like, literally, she's like, she has this look of, oh, bother. eh. That is a fact only known by four figures. I can assume which one told you.
It was told in mockery of me, Your Highness, as it, or not Your Highness, but you're my noble Primogen, via one of those individuals.
Good, I'll take note of that, considering we're defending the entire city from it.
He will then remove from the inside folds of his robe a piece of parchment, and he will hand it to her. Bishop, you haven't written it to me yet, but on that piece of paper, he will have written he will have transcribed once again his exact translation of Ulrich's tablet, copied again onto that.
Yeah.
You might find this somewhat helpful.
She begins reading through. She begins reading. She reads about a couple of lines before her curiosity intensifies significantly. Oh, now, where did you get this from?
Prince Ulrich employed me in order to translate his tablet. he will then remove another piece of paper from his pocket. He will hand it. He will, when she's done reading, and will hand it to her. That is the transcription of Giles's, because when I originally copied it, I got 4 successes on my intelligence rolls to remember it. So he transcribed that one from memory.
Yeah, it's an almost perfect translation. 5. Did you get 4 successes or 5?
4 successes.
Oh, pardon, sorry.
On the intelligence roll to remember it, I got 4 successes.
Okay, yeah, so almost perfect, but yeah, a couple maybe missed words, slight mistranslation here, just based off of not quite being able to remember the whole thing off by rote. But yeah, effectively an accurate, definitely a very accurate translation at worst. At best, effectively perfect. She reads the other. Lightly, a bald hand kind of meets a bald hand meets her lips. For a moment, she reads. Fascinating.
One can assume that you have translated the 3rd tablet that is in your possession yourself, then.
Yes. And I believe I am beginning to form a narrative. You certainly are a man of incredible results, Solahdrin. But to answer your question, given the incredibly sensitive and destructive nature, or potentially destructive nature of the item, only 2 among our clan, including myself, know of its existence.
Am I to assume the other is your child?
Yes. We had, after translating it, attempted to destroy it, but we have found no effective means to do so, neither physical or mystical. It appears to simply ignore any effects upon itself.
That is some very potent magic. He will nod his head.
We have still been in the process of properly identifying the process behind the power that created it, or created the effect. It was not the one who wrote the message, or at least not intentionally. The prevailing theory is it was not an elaborate ritual, but rather an effect that was fueled by something far more primal.
It is entirely possible this was an accident. It could have been there at a specific time when something occurred, as opposed to itself being the intention.
Yes, it is. I suppose the simplest way to put it is how strong wills and emotions can linger even from beyond the grave. In certain very rare centuries, millennia rare cases, they can produce certain outcomes that would otherwise be deemed impossible even by advanced magicians such as myself.
It is my assertion that Mary the Black, as she is referred to now, is indeed the architect of this grand plan, or rather this ritual that was spoken of in the first tablet, which is why she is so desperately attempting to reclaim the tablets.
If I recall, the first tablet wasn't a ritual. I think it was the first page, one of the first pages.
The first tablet. The first tablet was basically where they were in the city and they were talking about how a ritual would save them from the army at the gate.
I'm 100% certain I didn't mention a ritual. 101%.
We can go and check. I'm really sure you did.
Yeah.
Give me just
I know they had hope and they believed everything would be okay.
Everything would be okay.
I'm very certain I did not mention a ritual.
What was the name of the town again? Because if I search the Facebook Messenger, it should just pop up with the name.
Ebla. E-B-L-A.
1 second, kind sir. I shall be with you momentarily. Ebla. Search messages. Yeah. E-B-L-A. Ebla. Yeah, I found it. 1 second. Okay, you're right. It did not mention a ritual. My apologies. I think he put two and two together that a ritual happened in Ebla.
At least, well, something has clearly affected the tablet, so something is.
Okay,
something happened.
I can actually tell you his reasoning. His reasoning was they still had hope, and basically they had no chance of military reprieve. So his thought is, no, they did something infernal in Ebla, and that was their hope.
Definitely true. Well, definitely possible considering who and what you're dealing with.
He'll point and he'll say, in that case, I'll change what he'll say. He'll say, it is my belief that Mary the Black performed or was in the presence of the performing of some great and profane act that took place in Ebla all those years ago. And these tablets may even give an inclination as to how that rite itself was carried out. So the lesser infernalists who appear to buzz around this city like flies are currently attempting to gather them so that they may perform the same rite now.
Potentially, but this, from what I'm reading, this appears to be the personal life of someone who has yet to experience such arts or atrocities.
One assumes that even the most black-hearted rogue starts out an innocent.
Perhaps it is something that will be revealed later on in
I
this
don't.
little story of ours, but we have what appears to be three of the first five of these tablets. It's interesting. I have seen it noted on your most recent transcription here and on mine. This figure does appear to know of the supernatural, and even refers to its master, but it isn't the... It isn't one of the names of the Eons or the Infernal, certainly not one I am familiar with. There are several references to Mikael.
Is there a lore I can roll? Or a thing?
Oh no. Oh, no, this one's kind of above. You'd need like lore 8+ for this, I feel. Like, this is insanely obscure.
Does the name translate to anything?
Not really.
Okay.
Like, this is it's a name. It's not really a word. It's not like
yeah, it doesn't mean, oh great devourer of babies on Sunday mornings or such like that.
No, it doesn't really translate to anything concrete. But you actually this is actually something important. When on the page that you did one of the pages that you transcribed, the writer did refer to themselves as this. And then so you assume there is a naming convention there. There is a pattern to how the names are put together. This is like the most direct translation you can work with. Like, it doesn't really, it's like, this is the most literal translation, I should say.
The more I read of this, the more I come to understand the fact that I believe that answers may yet be found in the ruins of Ebla.
Indeed. I remember a few decades ago we sent out some of our more recently blooded out that way, but none returned from the event. We were in the midst of war at the time, so we did not wish to risk any more resources going after what was essentially a goose chase. But with this...
Where did you come across your tablet, the one that the prince has so politely asked us to guard?
You could say the old prince asked us to guard it, if only because we were unwilling to hand it over and were unconvinced by the Cappadocians' capacity to handle it with due care.
The Cappadocians. There's a snort of derision. Let them bother the dead.
Yes, like the usurpers, they have a nasty habit of reckless and wild experimentation that does more harm than good, particularly with such a thing that is wildly out of their area of expertise. Of course, it is also outside of mine, but why mention this to them? She smiles.
He strokes his chin and he says, as much as I am, and I am, loath to admit it, we are currently standing in the area of expertise that at least the Tremere claim to possess. Whether this is valid or not, there's a shrug. But they claim to be masters of this brand of affairs. However, the question is, how much do we wish to trust the usurpers, one supposes?
Not at all. But that doesn't mean they can't be bargained with.
Hmm. Hmm.
We have something they want. They will pay for it, like any other.
If the Tremere were willing to lead the expedition to Ebla, they may be able to come up with information that would be of value. But also, if they were destroyed in the endeavor, nothing is truly lost. All we would need to do is send an observer in order to get what information they can and present it back to us here. We risk nearly nothing except the aid in the endeavor as it pertains to sponsorship of this little expedition, and can possibly weaken a potential opponent in the same breath.
Given the value of what we now possess in both your transcriptions and this blooded cloth, in addition to my own translation, we will be able to barter with both not just usurpers, but perhaps many of the courtly officials for a great deal indeed.
He kind of slowly nods his head as he's sitting there. He's probably actually assumed the lotus position, sitting on top of his chair, or sitting on top of his box. That's just where it's kind of it's basically the meditative kind of sitting with tucked under you.
That brazier will also be useful, but we may be able to, how to say, use it as leveraging good faith.
Bear in mind, my lady, only Lady Madeleine and Lady Irene know of the true value or lack thereof of the brazier. It could be easily sold for a handful of great boons to individuals based on the fact of what it is, or what it appears to be, not necessarily what it is.
I'm seeing it may not be what they're looking for, but it's certainly. You did show it to her, didn't you?
Oh yeah, it's sitting right on the ground in front of her.
Oh yeah. Sorry, yeah, you took because I know you sealed the crate. Okay, you didn't put it back in the crate. That's good.
No, he's sitting on the empty crate basically.
It certainly has. It certainly has the markings of certain workings upon it, which I believe most assuredly will interest the usurpers, and it interests me. I definitely believe it has a role to play in their mystery.
The question is if this brazier was indeed was indeed a decoy, or if it had not been completed yet.
That depends somewhat. I might need to examine a genuine brazier to be certain.
From what I have been told, they simply left the braziers where they fell. They didn't collect them. I can go this evening and see if they are still by happenstance there.
Yes, it does. It also puzzles me as to why these braziers are being left out in the open at all. I wonder if they have asked that question to themselves.
It is a Zoroastrian tradition to have an open flame, I'm led to understand. It's how they worship in. He raises his hands for air bunny quotes, fire temples.
Ah, yes, I remember the fire temples. Not quite as harmful as they sound. The Zoroastrians were a surprisingly tolerant and passive people.
He stopped. I questioned why on earth they didn't think to take the braziers with them. I think it was just their own inexperience and or incompetence on the matter. But then again, it is Sister Madeleine and Lady Irene. I don't think we can constitute much from them.
True, but it also may be a matter of a caution or fear. If they are dealing with artifacts of the infernal, perhaps it is wise not to touch.
I do not believe that the items themselves are necessarily. I do not believe the brazier's physical body is itself infernal. I believe the flame within the brazier was, for it was when I saw it, it radiated a dark power. But the brazier itself either was just a conduit or a focus. I don't believe it itself is.
Also a possibility. But they may have been warded. Again, I would not be able to tell unless I saw a genuine article. She wouldn't say a genuine article. A genuine brazier. The individual behind their construction could have created all manner of traps to or into the brazier. Given the unpredictable nature of our arts, it is difficult to determine until one is face to face with the item in question. But from what I can tell with this one, it does not appear to be warded. It does appear to have an enchantment upon it that causes it to supernaturally billow fire and smoke, but within a contained space. Almost like a... Almost as... You are a military man. It is much like how one has a brazier to signal for aid or for intrusion within their holdings.
Unfortunately, the Ventru stole the priest before I could return and claim him when it was that we were at this place in question. He would have been useful to answer some of these questions, and it would have been wonderful to have gotten him before the Ventru got their hands on him, but these things occur.
That is a shame, but we have come out very far ahead. We can forgive this minor loss.
There is a kind of a very serpentine nod of the head, like, yes. I will ask a benefice for all of my service, however.
You are welcome to it after this. You have taken leadership over your brethren in a time of crisis, served this clan well, and now grant us what are the keys to rapid expansion among the society of, well, as they would call themselves, the Society of Cain. And she smiles with a sort of amused look and is like, oh, those silly goose.
He will restrain the urge to spit on the ground because, of course, Setites don't believe they come from Cain.
Yeah, she's... She kind of treats it with a degree of patronism, like, oh, they're so cute, thinking like those silly Christians,
those silly boos.
Those silly Abrahamic heathens.
You need to hashtag need more set in your life. Hashtag fuck Osiris.
Who?
But yeah, no, he will nod and he will say, "In that case, I will ask two services, one of which is very easy to grant. I wish to read your translation of your particular tablet."
Yes, I have created several translations, one of which is literal, the other is one meant to be more accommodating to our current languages. And the other one is meant to perhaps, well, the other one is to piece together the actual narrative that this what would appear to be a very primitive journal is attempting to create. I have several variations of these. I can grant you all of them, and it is far safer than interacting with the item in question, which radiates a very dark and primordial power, and as such has been sealed heavily away.
This goes to my cretin thought that the shards themselves, if brought together, could, shall we say, release something that they hold.
They would
Perhaps
make for extremely dangerous conduits. Even one could be catastrophic. All of them together could create a in in the terms of an infernalist, a sanctified well. It would likely mean, at the very least, the end of Saracen empires, to put it mildly.
Do you know where Giles's tablet went?
It was entered into the hands of the court officials, which you're now a part of, so I'm sure you could discover yourself by simply requesting the information, but from what the Primogen were told, it has entered the hands of the Seneschal.
He contemplates. The Seneschal is powerful and old, but does he have the knowledge to keep it safe?
In temporal terms, he likely surpasses us in influence and his capacity to store it. In mystical terms, I am uncertain. I'm aware that the La Sombra, the rare few, possess some obscure mystic art of their own. I know that. In some junctures, it has even proved to be quite powerful or significant against the forces of the infernal. But I know little about it. It is a secret, is closely guarded as our own sorceries. I only know that it exists, and that it is based upon their own art of obtenebration.
The tongue flicks out, tasting the air before he'll shrug. He had no idea this mysticism even existed until now, because it's that rare and stupidly odd.
It is, yeah. This is kind of news to you. But yeah, apparently Lasombra possessed blood magic too. What the hell? Why is it? Solahdrin might be thinking to himself, why does everybody have blood magic now? Why can't this just be ours? Let's have our shit, guys.
He knows that they don't because he had no ability to do warding, which is actually relatively simple. So he thinks that, yeah, they might have blood magic, but it's very alien, different blood magic than
Yeah.
the standard kind of what we use.
It's definitely the way the Primogen describes it definitely implies this. Like she seems to be like, this is based on something I have no idea how the fuck.
Also, because I'm basically just going to say it for the purposes of RP, just so because we kind of need to get this done with, so we can discuss it. Okay. I will leave in your capable hands the other matter as it pertains to the Assamites and their attempts to spy on me, if that is agreeable.
I'll definitely be having words with the Primogen and how his little follower is going to rectify this situation for us, because we are in the rather unique position of being able to definitively prove that he was attempting to spy on us. It is, after all, a ritual that is well spread across the various clans. I was able to identify it. He used it. I can only imagine usurpers will discover it upon a glance. In fact, they may even prove useful allies in this regard. They have no love for the Assamites.
There's a shrug. I have no interest in what one pathetic boy who cannot think in the ways of politics has to do. However, ultimately, if this was to be revealed to the Primogen Council, it would be very damaging to Clan Assamite.
Yes,
So
attempting to... I shall wait for you, sorry. But yes, she will say, yes, attempting to spy upon a court official is a grave offence indeed. And it could even be construed that he was attempting to spy on both of us, which would be even worse.
There is a slow nod, like, Ultimately, however, the boy has proven his own incompetence.
Still, incompetence can be valuable.
As you say.
Did you... no, I do not believe you have heard the rather recent story. A very incompetent Cainite who once broke our domain when it was still a cohesive clan domain. He ended up owing us a great boon as a result. He was made to cause a great deal of ruckus within the domain of the usurpers, which resulted in him in breaching theirs. Served our purposes quite nicely.
What did he do?
He fed and killed someone within their domain.
Oh dear.
I do not know what became of him, but I believe he is dead now. Individuals like him tend to burn out.
Of this one understands. As for my other request, I merely wish your guiding hand in the learning of the secret arts of our clan.
Normally, Solahdrin, I would be loath to teach anyone but within the specific circles that I belong to. However, in your particular case, you've proven yourself not only to have the potential, but actually actively deserving of such secrets, in which case I shall be proud to teach you of particular ways.
He will bow. He will stand up and he will bow and he will say, I will make an excellent student, I assure you, my lady.
If you would not, I would not be offering.
He will rise and he will say, "Very well then. In that case, I will take Nabetta, and we were going to go and see if those braziers still remain where they lie. If they are, I will send a runner back to inform you that they are there."
Of course. I shall begin extending our reach once more. Even a decoy cannot be allowed to exist within the slums, even if they are outside of our official domains.
He will nod before he turn. He will nod. He will turn on his heel, and he will say, "Very well then. I shall see that this is done expeditiously. If they are not physically there, we may be able to pick up the trail as to where it is they were taken. After all, if nothing else, they're made of solid silver. Every thief in the town will want them before long."
Very much so. In which case I shall leave you to it. Good evening, Keeper Solahdrin, and thank you for your ever so generous gifts.
May the blessing of he shine upon you, my lady. And with that, he starts to walk out of the room, and then he will kind of go to a jog.
And I think with that, she merely curtsies as you walk away. We can end the scene there. Thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watcher, for watching. We'll see you all next time.